The road to Indy may often be overlooked by European feeder series fans, but the 2025 season has produced 3 great young champions, one of which will surely be an IndyCar star in the not too distant future. Hello and welcome fellow motorsports fans. In this week's episode we'll talk all things road to Indy, from the regular Max Garcia glazing session to Dennis Hauger finding himself in a surprising title fight. So let's get straight to it. Before we get to the road to Indy, let's quickly get the only bit of European feeder series racing out of the way first. Eurocup 3 has kicked off its second half of the season at Assen with a proper twist to the championship battle. Red Bull Junior Ernesto Rivera had a shocking weekend, no pace to boast, and had to leave without a single point. Admittedly, Campos as a whole had a bit of a rough time, only Kasper Stuker managed to have a competitive weekend. This gave MP Motorsport's ace Mattia Colnaghi the perfect opportunity to retake the championship lead and even open up a gap to his Mexican rival. Unfortunately, the Italian got penalised out of a comfortable race 1 win, but did make up for it in race 2 with another clinical performance. With the mediocre performance Gladish has been showing over the summer, Colnaghi is inarguably the most impressive driver on the grid right now, and I don't think anyone will be in a position to really challenge that before the end of the year, especially when we consider his new main rival Valerio Rinicella does have a considerable experience advantage. Nevertheless, I also really appreciate seeing Rinicella in his current form again, very reminiscent of his 2023 Spanish F4 campaign. He might not instantly click with new cars, but give him time to settle in and he is a very capable young racing driver, as he has also been showing outside of the single-seater ladder with his ELMS campaign, I might add. Outside of the really heavy hitters at the front, James Egozzi continues to be quite impressive in my opinion. It must be tricky to go up against that MP Motorsports army as a Polo driver, but the former Red Bull Junior is managing it rather well, just bringing home consistent point scoring results week in, week out. In another car, he might well be a key title contender. I am low-key hoping he'll get a shot in F3. I think his development is on a fantastic trajectory ever since his slow car racing start in 2023. The Swedish LI Racing team have had a brilliant idea going into this weekend by putting veteran Michael Belov in the car, presumably to help sort out the setup. And that decision would have been rewarded with a great shot at the race win, if not for mechanical issues taking the car out of race 2 right off the line. Nevertheless, a P2 in race 1 is far and away the best result the team has had so far. Unfortunately, neither Linus nor Emil Hellberg were able to profit from the experienced teammate and remained backmarkers. Turns out it isn't just about the car after all. Time to finally get to the road to Indy, where the 3 lowest tiers of the ladder have finished their championship at Portland last weekend. In the USF Juniors, the weekend was all about Leonardo Escorpioni coming into the weekend as a pretty overwhelming favourite, and he did deliver with a pair of wins to take the title with 1 race to spare. Liam Loiacono had a bit of bad luck when it mattered most, but to be honest, this was never supposed to be his title in the first place. That said, I still believe he looked like the most well-rounded driver on the grid, but that isn't exactly a huge surprise given his age and experience in Formula Ford. The battle for the best proper rookie fresh out of karting produced a bit of a surprising result, with Ty Fisher actually beating Oliver Weldon somewhat convincingly in the end. Of course, Zanella Racing was looking like the strongest team all around, but it isn't like VRD was categorically outgunned or anything. Weldon may have really hit the ground running early in the year, but had a pretty shocking second half of the season, seemingly struggling in the tight pack racing once the rest of the grid had stepped up the pace a little. Definitely not as impressive as his brother Sebastian was so far, but of course both are super young. Either way, Fisher deserves a lot of recognition for this season, I reckon, and for winning the last race against a 5-second penalty. Pretty impressive stuff. And you may be getting tired of me mentioning it every time, but I have really taken a liking to the Gonzalez brothers, and they yet again delivered this weekend, with one of the 2 on the podium in every single race. Together with maybe Brendan Cooley, these 2 have easily had the biggest, most believable improvement over the course of the season, and I am truly excited to see where they'll end up next. Shout out for debuting Justin De Lucia. Debuts are always tricky, and that is even more true if you do it against a grid with a full season of experience under their belts. And yet, the Canadian was immediately up to the task and improved over the weekend to end with a rock-solid P7, while driving for the rather mediocre exclusive Motorsport no less. Definitely looking forward to his future as well. The USF2000 title battle was essentially already decided before the weekend, but Jack Jeffers still made it a point to show his front-running skills once again with another win and a pair of second places. Inarguably the man of the season, considering he only finished outside the podium 5 out of the 18 races, and 2 of those were with Liam McNeely still on the grid dicking on people. Thomas Schrag did put up a decent fight and was definitely a front runner this weekend as well, but to be honest, considering he is a returning driver, this wasn't awfully impressive, at least not in the same way. Fittingly, Schrag has actually lost P2 in the championship by a single point thanks to an incident in the final race and a race-winning move from JSF4 champion Teddy Musella to take his second of the year. Musella has been a treat to watch, and while he wasn't quite as consistently front-running as Schrag, keeping it clean on the road ended up making all the difference. With those guys presumably all moving up the ladder, USF Pro 2000s will be incredible to watch next season. I do want to briefly highlight the pair of drivers completely new to car racing that we've talked about so much early in the season. Caleb Gaffrera and Sebastian Gazone, both fresh out of karting for this year. And even if it might not look like it at first glance, I reckon both have developed very nicely. Gaffrera even winning a race and Gazone finally scoring his maiden podium in the very last race of the season. P8 in the standings might not be anything special, but keep in mind that still makes him the best of his team. I kinda hope he returns for a top team next season to give the title a shot. Either way, both drivers are perfect examples of young talent that should encourage you to give the road to Indy a bit more attention going forward. And in the USF Pro 2000s, Max Garcia finished the year in style with another pair of dominant victories. Kid really is unstoppable at the moment. Matching Carl Kirkwood's win record is surely an ominous sign for his career, and keep in mind, Kirkwood did have considerably less opposition to deal with than Garcia. But we have done enough Max Garcia glazing over the season, so instead, let's look at the remarkably dramatic battle for P2. Turns out that battle was decided by 2 lapped cars, with Mac Clark and Max Taylor fighting it out over P11 in the final race. Taylor got the crucial overtake, allowing young Ariel Elkin to claim P2 by a single point ahead of the Canadian driver. Factoring in both the lack of experience and the team dynamics, Elkin definitely deserves that spot, as he was probably the second most impressive driver after Unstoppable Garcia, though I will say again that I do have a huge soft spot for Mac Clark. Looking further ahead, I reckon the top 4 should absolutely move up to IndyNXT. If only racing was a purely performance-related business. Jacob Douglas and Max Taylor are fringe cases in that debate for me. Douglas, because he still got utterly dominated by teammate Garcia, and Taylor because of the severe inconsistency at times, though I'll concede that VRD is a tricky team to judge. Then again, we know Taylor is making the jump to IndyNXT for sure full-time anyway. I'll try to do proper, full-on reviews for all of the USF series this season to put a bit more of a spotlight on the road to Indy. The camera work may be frustrating, but aside from that, these are excellent series to watch young drivers develop into the stars of tomorrow, and we should all watch them way more than we're doing right now. Turns out the cars in IndyNXT are just a tad too fast to put on an exciting race at Portland, with pit stops not in the picture, but we still got a couple of key moments. Most notably, Dennis Hauger pulling off the perfect start, taking the lead around the outside of title rival Caio Collet. We've not talked about it, but thanks to some Laguna Seca chaos, Collet actually found himself with a shot at the title again. It is quite fitting that it is the 2 graduates from the European scene that now dominate the show over in the US, and it is satisfying to see the title fight turned into the one we were predicting before the year. Lucky Shoes did give it a good go and was quite exceptional for a rookie, I have to say, but both Hauger and Collet are really tough opponents to go up against. Michael D'Orlando has finally returned to single-seater racing. The former USF 2000 champ and USF Pro 2000's title contender ran out of budget after a good half season in IndyNXT last year, and to be honest, I was ready for it to become yet another sad racing story of budget issues killing a young career. But he is back now, and the break evidently did not hurt his skills at all. He was quick right out the gate and well established in the midfield, even if that means he somehow still lost out to Niels Coughlan. Otherwise, we all know the usual frontrunners by now, but I do have to point out an uncharacteristically anonymous weekend from this season's breakout driver Josh Pearson. Don't forget, he had his career best weekend last time out at Laguna Seca, and here he finished outside the top 10 completely on merit. Sure, Hughes might only be one spot ahead, but Hughes had to charge from the back on a tricky to overtake track. Pearson was just a bit, well, anonymous. Just pointing it out for completion's sake though, let's move on. In IndyCar, there was really two obvious main storylines to talk about. First off, Alex Palou crowned as a 4-time champion with another trademark solid race at the front, even if it wasn't quite the usual dominant drive. Sure, Pato Ward suffering mechanical failure was a bit anticlimactic, but let's be real, we all knew this was over anyway. We may have talked about it a lot over the season, but it cannot be overstated just how fantastic of a racing driver Alex Palou is at the moment. Not only is he dominating in a way that is rather rare in a SPAC series, he's doing it while arguably lacking a sizable team advantage. Don't get me wrong, Chip Ganassi Racing is the strongest team on the grid and his crew has remained basically flawless, but it's not like Scott Dixon was anywhere near a consistent win contender, so I don't think Palou's advantage in that regard was particularly big. And we have to highlight his remarkable consistency, not just being able to convert nearly every opportunity into a win, but also making the most of mediocre situations on a regular basis. Truly a complete racing driver. While I don't think it'll happen, and would probably hurt his career anyway, if I was running a Cadillac F1 team, I'd be throwing all the money at him right now. The second big story was of course Will Power finally stepping up to the challenge to take Penske's rather late first win of the season. And at a time where his future appears to be quite uncertain, it was a well-timed performance too. There is no doubt that Power is a great racing driver, but he has looked a little average this season, and if I'm entirely honest, I don't know if that single race is enough to change my mind here. While Power leaving will be a sad day for the series, if he doesn't just end up in a lesser team that is, I would personally love one of the Penske seats to go to David Malukas. I think he'll be able to do things Penske could only dream about in 2025. Eilert running well for Prema isn't even really news anymore at this point, so instead I wanted to very briefly call out Connor Daly and Christian Rasmussen for the proper boneheaded incident they had, both driving like dickheads for no reason, and while entertaining, it wasn't exactly the best look for the sport. And of course, you never really want to see an avoidable crash like that, but that's just my opinion. Unfortunately, Super Formula remained inaccessible for me once again with no VODs available anywhere without a credit card. At least I did manage to watch the Fuji races by now. Worst case, this means we'll have to skip the series entirely until a proper full season review at the end of the year. It would be a real shame, but I really just don't have a solution at the moment. And with no noteworthy karting on the menu either, I'm afraid this is already it for the episode. Next week will be even more calm with really only British F4 to look forward to, so instead I want to use the time to get some more review type videos out, starting with Formula E later this week. But for now, it is your time to drop all of your thoughts and opinions and video suggestions down in the comments so we can get our lovely little discussion going. And otherwise, I thank you all for watching and I do hope to catch you in the next one.